Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Kashtira deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because we got Kashtira Unicorn back at 3 and they didn't even touch Fenrir on the last list. Kashtira best deck, let's go. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notice so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description, every single video, getting get signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. It's amazing that this card is back at 3 because this card is a 1-card starter. If you control no monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and during your main phase, you can add a Kashtira spell from your deck to your hand. And when this card declares an attack or when an opponent's monster activates its effects, you can look at your opponent's extract, and if you do, banish 1 monster from it face down, giving you knowledge of what your opponent's playing, and also potentially getting rid of a boss monster before it even touches the field, which is so good. This card is definitely a 3 of the deck, and I'm so glad this card is back to 3. We then play 3 copies of Fenrir. It's absolutely unbelievable that this card is still at 3, but it's amazing for us playing Kashtira. This card is really good because if you control a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. During the main phase, you can add a Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand, and also it spot removes cards off the field, which is so good. This card is a board breaker, basically a better Cyber Dragon that can special summon itself to your side of the field, and it has 2,400 attack points. This card is one of the best cards in the entire deck, and it's amazing this card is still at 3. We then play a single copy of Ogre. Ogre's really good in the deck because it can help us search preparation. Also, if we don't control a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and as the ability during the main phase, during your main phase, you can add 1 Kashtira trap from your deck to your hand, which is so cool. And when an attack is declared with this card, or if an opponent's monster activates its effect, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, banish 1 excavated card face down, and place the rest on top of the deck in the same order, which is so good to be able to get rid of basically combo pieces that your opponent might be playing. And this card is really good in the build. Plus, it comes out at 2,800 attack points. We then play 3 copies of Rise Heart. Rise Heart is amazing because this card is an awesome extender in the deck. That if you control a Kashtira monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is amazing. And during your main phase, if this card is normal or special summoned this turn, you can banish a Kashtira card from the deck, except another copy of this card, then banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck face down. And if you do, this card becomes level 7, which is amazing to make rank 7 plays. We then play a single copy of the Scareclaw Kashtira. This card can attack while in defense position, applying its defense points as if they were attack points, which is so cool. It also comes out with 2,600 attack points, and it's super easy to summon because during the main phase, quick effect, you can banish a Scareclaw or a Kashtira card from your hand or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, which is so easy to do. We then play 3 copies of Shifter. Shifter's still at 3. This deck is insane. This card is really good because it banishes anything that touches the graveyard once it's sent to the grave, and it's amazing to be able to play in the deck because we want our cards banished. This card is so important for the deck, and it helps out so much in this build to be able to deal with your opponent's basically graveyard, and just activating this card can win you games on its own. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a definite 3 of in the build because this card basically just stops your opponent from touching the deck. Plus, it's a level 3 tuner. We can then play 2 copies of Ghost Mourner. Ghost Mourner is amazing because this card is also a level 3 tuner. And this card negates monster effects, and it's really good in this build because it is a level 3 tuner that we can normal summon next to any one of our Kashtira monsters and turn them into a Baron, which is super cool to be able to do, and I love doing that play in this deck. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good so we can get to our copy of Pressured Planet. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is amazing in this deck as a 1-of just to basically stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays, even though we can play through hand traps. We then play a single copy of Snatch Steal because this card's back at 1. This is insane. This card is crazy. It lets you take control of an opponent's monster, which is so cool to be able to just equip it to an opponent's monster and take control of it permanently, which is just super cool because it clears the way so we can OTK even easier. This card is definitely a 1-of in the deck. Your opponent will gain 1,000 life points during each of their standby phases, but they're probably not making it to the standby phase to gain that 1,000 life points because we're either going to get rid of the monster or we're going to go in for game. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Triple Tactics Talents is so good in the deck because it lets you draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and choose a card from it and shuffle it back in the deck. This card is amazing in the deck. If we do get hand trapped, this card helps us out a lot. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Theosis. Theosis is so good in this deck as a 3-up and has a crazy powerful effect that lets you target a Kashtira monster that you control and special summon 1 Kashtira monster with a different attribute from your deck and defense position. Also, for the rest turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extract except XZ monsters. And if this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Kashtira cards, except a copy of Theosis, and add it back to your hand, which is such a cool ability to recover some of your cards back from banished. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Birth. Birth is really good as a 3-up. This card has the ability, you can normal summon a level 7 monster without tributing once per turn. And during your main phase, you can special summon one of your non-XZ Kashtira monsters that's banished or in your graveyard, making this card a monster reborn every single turn. It also deals with your opponent's graveyard, because if your opponent activates a spell card or effect and you control a Kashtira monster, you can target 3 cards in your opponent's grave and banish them face down. This is a crazy powerful card. If you open this card plus Fenrir, you have full combo, and it's such a good card to be able to do. Plus, if you open Theosis plus Fenrir, you have full combo. If you open up this card plus Fenrir, you have full combo, which is so good, and I love that about this deck. This card is so powerful and helps out so much in the build. We then play 3 copies of Pressured Planet. Pressured Planet is really good because this card is Rhoda, and it also pops cards, and it gains makes your monsters gain attack points. That when this card is activated, you add a Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. And monsters that you control gain 100 attack and defense points for each different attribute on the field. And if a Kashtira Shangra era you control activates an effect except during the damage step, then you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it, which is so cool to be able to do. Just pop cards on the field, add a copy of a Kashtira monster hand, and make our monsters get even bigger on the field. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Prosperity is definitely a 3-of in the build, just to help you dig into the deck for more plays, and it's amazing how many starters this deck has and how easy it is to pull off. You basically play like 7 1-card starters in the deck with the 3 copies of Planet, the 1 copy of Terraforming, and the 3 Unicorns. Make it so easy to be able to start your plays, but this card basically goes for extenders, which is amazing. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Big Bang. Big Bang is definitely a 1-of in the deck and is what you usually banish off your copy of your Rise Heart. This card has the ability that if this card is banished, then you can target a Kashtira XZ that you control and add one of your Kashtira monsters attached to it back to your hand, which is such a cool ability. Then you get to special summon that monster from your hand, basically giving you 1 of your materials back and letting you make an XZ play for 1 material, which is crazy. This card is also kind of sort of like evenly matched, that if a Kashtira XZ monster is on the field and a player controls 2 or more monsters, they must banish monsters so that they only control, or face down so they only control 1 monster, which is just crazy. We then play a single copy of Preparation. Preparation just is really good because during either player's turn, you can special summon one of your Kashtira monsters that's banished or in your hand. And if your opponent activates a trap or effect and you control a Kashtira monster and this card is already face up in the spell and trap card zone, you can look at your opponent's hand, and if you do, banish 1 card from it face down, which is such a cool ability for this card to have, just to deal with a bunch of different plays that your opponent might be playing. We then play 3 copies of Imperm. Imperm is amazing as a hand trap just to stop your opponent's monster effects, and it helps out a lot in the deck also to lock down entire columns of spells and traps. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Dark Armed, the Dragon of Annihilation. This card is my main boss monster I'm summoning out in this build because this card pops 2 and banishes cards from our graveyard and can also attack, which is so good because it has the ability once per turn. If you have exactly 5 dark monsters in your graveyard, you can also XZ summon this card by using 1 level 5 or higher dark dragon monster you control as material. But you can also detach a material from this card and then target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it, then banish a card from the graveyard graveyard. Also, this card cannot attack for the rest of the turn, meaning I can summon this card, swing, and then in main 2, I can pop, which is super cool to be able to do. Plus, it comes out at 2,800 attack points, and with your copy of Pressure Plant, it's going to get even bigger, which is so cool to be able to do. This card is amazing in the deck as a 2-of, and is now basically like the new Kashtira boss monster, which is pretty fitting. We then play 2 copies of Shangri-Ira. Shangri-Ira is really good. You don't summon it as much as you used to, but it's really good to help you zone lock and during the standby phase bring out another Kashtira monster from the deck, which is pretty good to be able to do. If you have full combo to do it, you go in for your copy of 1 Shangri-Ira and zone lock something. Especially if you're going up against like a Pendulum deck, you want to always lock one of the Pendulum zones when you summon out this card first. If you don't know what you're playing against, always lock a Pendulum zone, and it's really important to do that. We then play a single copy of Dracosack. Dracosack's really good because it can pop cards on the field and also generate as tokens. 1 copy of Big Eye so we can take control of our opponent's monsters. This card is just really good in the deck overall. 1 copy of Doom Rider. Doom Rider's great to be able to pop cards on the field. This card is really good in the deck. 1 copy of Mountain Smasher. Mountain Smasher is really interesting because this card has the ability you can detach a material in this card, and this card gains 1,000 attack points, boosting this card to 31, which is pretty good. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can attach that monster to this card as a material, making a really big copy of Zeus. We then play a single copy of number 41, Bagooska. Bagooska can be made with 2 copies of Rise Heart. I know that's a little bit weird, but it is an option that you can go into in this build. We then play a single copy of Abyss Dweller. This card is an instant win against graveyard decks. You can make it with 2 copies of Rise Heart, which is, again, a little bit weird, but we can do it. We then play a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is amazing in the deck. I almost played 2 copies of Zeus in this build because it's so easy to make. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is amazing in this build because you can basically make it at any time, which is so cool to be able to do. We then play a single copy of Baron because we can normal summon out one of our hand traps like an Ash or Ghost Mourner to be able to make this card, and even if your opponent hits you with a hand trap on the copy of Unicorn like a Veiler or an Imperm or something like that and you can't basically stop it, you can just normal summon a hand trap and make Baron, and then you have basically turned Unicorn into a unicorn, which is hilarious to me, and it's really cool. Plus, it's a walking negate and it can pop cards. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight because we can make it, and this card is a double interruption, and we can use an XZ to make it, which makes it have its interruption, which is so cool, and it's just really hard for your opponent to deal with this card. And then finally, we play a single copy of Donner just in case we need him, which is just pretty good to be able to pop cards on the field. So, that's it for this one, guys. It's an amazing deck. I'm so excited that Kashtira actually got a boost off the list when I thought Fenrir was basically going to get hit on the list. We just got a unicorn back. That's so crazy, and I love it. It's so super fun. I'm super excited to play this deck, and it's just a really, really insane. I'm really excited to show you guys that Kashtira will be the best deck of the format. So, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.